How many employees per 1,000 residents do you have? Do you know? Like we have 6.2, I think, employees. You were at 4 something during the downturn. I wondered where you.
But it probably only ticked up only a couple of that.
Oh, okay.
But my friends in the
Let
school
me.
district.
I got to run this
Oh yeah, yeah. You do your thing. You do your
before
thing.
we get started.
Yes.
Morning, and we'll call to order the meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Mr. O'Hain.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Item 1 is your citizens' participation.
This is the first time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak to the board on a posted agenda item, now is your opportunity. Alita Dupree.
Chair Brown, thank you, Alita Dupree, for the record. As I have written on the paper, I am speaking specifically on the posted agenda item number 28, which is about a budgeting for rides. I'm in support of this program. I'm encouraged at the growth of this program. Last week I had some personal experience through a different plan I had in being able to use Lyft as a platform to get me to and from an appointment, of which I made a phone call. and was able to arrange round-trip transportation, and using that customer service experience to provide me with all the relevant information, such as the vehicle's driver's name, make and model of the car, and license plate. So it was a very flexible situation for me. It helped me to travel on a shorter notice. I see this item is on consent. It is my hope this item will remain on consent. It is very important that we pass this item because this expansion will help us to be more efficient and to be able to move a lot more people in need to achieve their goals to get around this area. Again, I strenuously urge you to pass this item. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board on a posted agenda item? Seeing and hearing no one, will close this portion of public comment.
Mr. Chairman, item 2 is to approve the agenda. The agenda is in order for your approval.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 3 is to approve the general manager's report. As you are aware, this is not Tina Quigley. And I'm not blonde either. We have a few items to cover this morning on the employee recognition as well as contractor recognition. So let me get in there. Our first item is to recognize the superstars of the quarter for the RTC employees. Our first superstar of the quarter is Mr. Eric Shan in our Transit Amenities Department. Is he here? Come on down. Mr. Shan played a key role in our December transit service changes as he developed a comprehensive assessment of new transit stop locations, implemented a new GPS system for stop placements, and monitored construction zones for detour adjustments. As one of the original members of the transit amenities team, he's a true team player and a respected source of information for other departments throughout the RTC. Please join me in recognizing Mr. Eric Shan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Tina, MJ, my management team, and my coworkers.
Thank you.
Our second superstar of the quarter is Ms. Chris Schwartz in the Streets and Highways Department. Is Chris here? Mr. Schwartz demonstrates a tremendous amount of know-how, responsiveness, and accountability. He holds a relatively new position at the RTC. Chris has a defined role as a collaborator with the local jurisdictions, and he tracks and reports on active roadway construction zones throughout the valley. He is particularly accountable to the public and helps run down inquiries from the public through the Seeing Orange program. He's responsive during days, nights, weekends, and occasionally while on the road with his family. Why he does that, nobody knows. He's willing to jump in and help develop solutions and finances by working closely with your public works staff and contractors. And we know our community appreciates his service. Please help me recognize Chris Schwartz.
Thank you very much for this, Fred and JP and Tina and Streets and Highways team. He kind of tricked me in coming here this morning on another reason, but I appreciate it. I'm very grateful for having this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is a mechanic recognition from our contractor, Keolis. And today we're recognizing Mr. Jamil Galan. Is he here? Mr. Galan has been instrumental with preventive maintenance inspections for over 200 vehicles. He has worked to train other staff, identify key critical inspection points, and assisted with development of inspection forms. His tireless efforts have reduced wasted labor time by more than 10%, which equates to 1,000 man-hours per year. Mr. Gallan's meticulous attention to detail and upbeat personality landed him a starring role in Keolis' training video that has helped other mechanics learn all the preventive maintenance inspection processes. Thank you, Mr. Gallan, for all your hard work.
Thank you for giving me this award, and I thank Keolis and RTC, and last but not least, my family, and especially my wife. Thank you.
Good one on Valentine's Day.
Our last recognition is a quarterly RTC contractor recognition. And this is a very nice story. It's going to warm your hearts. The RTC would like to recognize Officer Ronald Peterson from Allied Universal. Is he here? As a security officer, Officer Peterson was instrumental in locating 2 young boys from separate incidents that were reported missing last month. The first incident involved identifying a young boy who had run away from his group home and was spotted by Officer Peterson. The second incident involved another young boy who was reported missing by his grandmother. Thanks to Officer Peterson's astute awareness and great attention to detail, both boys were returned safely to their caretakers. Officer Peterson is a father of 7. His compassion for our transit customers, especially our community's youth, truly shows in his everyday work. Great job, and thank you, Officer Peterson.
What do you say to something like this? It was just another day at the office for me. It's the truth. I'd like to thank my wife and my dad and my team on day shift. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we're done with other ones.
Did want to do one more recognition. It's at times it's difficult to be in the minority, but our next introduction is a gentleman that has stood his ground, stood his loyalty. So I'd like to have Sherwin Gutierrez come up to the mic and just display the
Good morning, Commissioners.
Could you state your name for the record?
For the record, Sherwin Gutierrez, RTC Finance Department.
And could you enlighten us as far as the most recent Super Bowl?
Hashtag 6 Super Bowl wins.
It's a great setup. Sherwin has indicated that Mr. Brady's biggest decision after the Super Bowl was he had 5 rings on this one. What finger would be the 6th? Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next, I'd like to provide the board with a brief update on the Maryland Parkway project. We finally received approval from the federal government on our environmental assessment and to move forward with our public comment period. The public comment period kicked off on February 4th and will end on March 7th. And we need to hear from your constituents about what they want to see on this important corridor. These dates and locations of the presentations and open houses have shown on the slide, and we have several open houses and presentations throughout the month of February. In addition, the public is also welcome to submit comments online at rtcsnv.com/Maryland Parkway. Next slide, please. Following the public comment period, findings will be presented to the RTC board for recommendations to move forward with a locally preferred alternative just sometime this spring. Now, after the board's approval, we will finalize the environmental assessment with the Federal Transit Administration, and secure a finding of no significant impact to begin the application for federal funding. Simultaneous with that, the team will work to evaluate transit-oriented development opportunities on Maryland Parkway with a $300,000 federal grant that we received late 2018. Any potential corridor enhancement could begin as early as 2022. Now I'd like to turn it over to Deputy General Manager MJ Minette to provide a snapshot of the state of the transit system.
Thanks, Fred. As part of our ongoing reporting of our transit system, we'd like to provide you with a mid-year update. So total fixed route ridership saw a 2.5% increase overall, which bucks the national trend of decreasing bus ridership. Strip ridership continues to decrease due to our customers choosing other transportation options. And as you can see, the revenue decline 6 months into our current fiscal year is a negative 4.1%. General market, or our local ridership, increased by the same percentage, which represents an increase of over 1 million boardings. As you can see from this slide, general market revenue is up 2.8%. However, due to a larger decrease in strip revenue, our overall revenue growth is nearly flat at about $32 million. Here is a year-over-year comparison of our strip revenue. Please note that each bar is from November to November of each year. Uber and Lyft began operating in November, they started operating in Nevada in October of 2015. We started to see the impacts in the fall, November of 2015. And that's just due to having another transportation option in the resort corridor. As noted on this slide, we've yet to hit a plateau where revenues are stabilized at a, quote, new normal level. From November 2015 through December 2018, we've cumulatively lost approximately $14 million in revenue. On-time performance dipped slightly from 86.2% to 85.9% for our 5-minute on-time standard. The fixed route drivers work hard to maintain service that is on time. Many thanks to both MV and Keolis drivers for all of their efforts. Because our extreme temperatures here in Las Vegas always affect our bus operations, we'd like to keep the commission apprised of the summer fleet performance. The number of total road calls increased slightly by 3.9%, mainly due to construction projects throughout the valley. We also saw a 9% decrease in heat-related shutdowns due to the ongoing bus replacement plan. The heat-related incidents normally occur on our older vehicles that we are slowly phasing out. The bus mechanics are truly appreciated for their skillful efforts. Here are some highlights from our transit amenities department. Today, there are a total of 3,337 bus stops. As part of our ongoing safety measures, to date we have pushed back over 1,200 shelters where we have the right-of-way by 5 feet or more from the curb. Of those, 23 shelters were pushed back during the first 6 months of the fiscal year. We will continue working with private property owners to acquire the necessary land to push back more shelters. Additionally, the transit amenities team put 5 bus stop lighting packages out to bid. Increasing the visibility and safety at all of our shelters continues to be a high priority for the RTC. And we hear that from our surveys, that darkened shelters are scary to them. And so it's a high priority. Finally, staff performed over 26,000 bus stop inspections to ensure compliance for our bus stop cleaning contracts. Our cleaning contractors use their mobile devices to log into an RTC-created website that can geolocate their devices and location, ensuring their staff is out in the field per the contracts. Advertising revenue from both bus shelters and buses, which pays for the maintenance of the bus stops, remains steady around $1.9 million. The number of total paratransit trips increased by 1.3% to more than 613,000 trips. As a side note, we're seeing more of our customers book trips online through our Ride Check feature. Over 672 clients booked more than 55,000 trips during this time period. And we were initially surprised, wondering how many folks actually use the online feature, and it's been overwhelming. On-time performance increased slightly from 93.8% to 94%. Many thanks to the paratransit drivers who work very hard to stay timely as they maneuver through a city full of orange cones. With regard to our senior transportation trips on our Silver Star routes and FDR service, we saw a 4.1% increase in the amount of trips taken. The number of trips taken on our Veterans Medical Transportation Network decreased to 14,448 trips. This may be due to the fact that the number of active clients, defined as taking one or more trips within 12 months, decreased by 7.3%. Since this is a service for medical appointments only, demand fluctuates. At our Mobility Training Center, 567 customers were mobility trained from July through December, an increase of 32.5%. These clients have been trained to travel more independently by using our fixed route system. Ride RTC, our mobile ticketing and trip planning app, has been downloaded more than 200,000 times. Customers have purchased more than 500,000 bus passes since we launched Ride RTC in September of 2016. Our Ride on Demand pilot that we launched in February of last year has seen significant results and success. Our partners Lyft and Tango Car provide same-day, on-demand trips for some of our paratransit, veteran, and certification clients. Since this program launched a year ago, 208 clients have opted into the program who have taken nearly 16,600 trips on Lyft and Tango Car. In that time frame, the RTC has recognized a 52% cost savings, or more than $320,000. And in addition to our cost savings, and we think this is even more important, we're getting great feedback. The customers, for the first time, really feel equity and freedom. The last item in the State of the System report is an update on our safety and security. The overall assaults by passengers were down 10%. We attribute much of this success to the increase of security presence and continuous safety campaigns that were instituted by our contractors, MV and Keolis. Both companies enhanced their customer service training with the drivers by placing an emphasis on reducing passenger and operator incidents. So some examples of the customer service training are positive customer engagement between the operator and the customer, sort of a de-accelerating of attention, and educating operators to quote the fare and allowing the security officer to enforce the fare policy. Passenger-on-passenger assaults increased by 2 incidents during the same time frame throughout our fixed route system. While it's hard to predict when and where an incident will occur, Allied Universal serves the RTC account with 177 security officers. The team places an emphasis on assigning security officers to ride the routes that have reported issues from both the drivers and our passengers. So it's an enforcement effort. If we hear that there's something occurring on the BHX, for example, in Boulder Highway, then we'll place a team to monitor all routes, or all shifts. So they're out there 24 hours a day. But we would like to thank the security officers. They really have it's not an easy job. In November, we launched a new feature on our Ride RTC app, Transit Watch. It's a safety feature where customers can directly report any suspicious, non-emergency activity to RTC security. In the first 2 months, there have been a total of 1,191 downloads and 23 security-related incidents reported. And that concludes the system update.
Mayor.
Thank you. Obviously, historically, the strip revenues have supported the system here in Southern Nevada, and we're seeing that the numbers changing on the strip because of the impact of Uber and Lyft, the TNCs in our valley. I think that's something we need to be monitoring and watching very closely, because that impacts our ability to provide other services across the community.
You're correct, Mayor. We used to enjoy a $6 million profit that we applied directly to the general market to support the services. We anticipate by the end of this current fiscal year that that profit will be at net zero.
Councilman.
Yes, I have a question. Are we able to track the possible increase in, I guess, more congestion on the strip? Since I guess I assume that there's more Lyft and Uber, more rideshare. Is there a way to actually quantify the increase in in this congestion.
Dr. Fred, maybe that's you?
Yes, we can identify how much is being congested since Lyft and Uber started operating here. However, it's going to be very difficult to attribute that exclusively to those services because, when we count the vehicles, we don't identify by type or who is driving what vehicle or the operator of that vehicle. But we can, in theory, be able to look at the trends before Uber and Lyft started working on the trip and then subsequent to that and provide that information. The only caution here is there's no direct correlation to say clearly that Uber and Lyft have increased traffic on the strip.
Well, I would assume that there's got to be some sort of data that we can pull up. I do believe that there's an entire taxi service that is now out of business. So we're not going to be seeing their cars on the strip. However, I don't think that means that people are actually walking or using bicycles. So they've got to be using some sort of vehicle, probably a motorized vehicle. I mean, if we're just seeing a shift from the taxis to Uber, or if we're actually seeing an increase in the amount of congestion, I think that's probably also something that falls under the purview of this board and of this agency. Are we able to actually the data that's from these rideshare programs? Is that something that's available for the RTC to actually investigate?
No, they haven't provided any information to us in terms of the actual ridership from Uber and Lyft. It's very difficult to get that data. I don't think any agency has that data, except a few cities in the US where they have different contracts with Uber and Lyft that requires them to provide some of that data. But there's nothing here at this point.
The data that would be required for us to be able to look at it, for us to be able to get that authority, would that be something that would have to be handed down from the state, or is that something that's a Clark County issue?
I believe it has to be done legislatively. They provide authority to both parties to operate here, and so any changes to that would have to be done legislatively at the state level, and then it will trickle down to the local governments.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
MJ, two quick questions. One is the mobility trained customers, 428 to 567. Have we or can we do any follow-up as far as those that have been trained? The frequency they're using the fixed route, any kind of reaction as far as where they've been successful?
We actually are going to be implementing a revision of what we did previously, where those that have been mobility trained, they'll have a new card, they'll use our validator, they'll tap on, so we'll be able to actually track how many trips they're taking. And our mobility team does follow up with clients they've trained periodically just to see how they're doing.
Right. And you did mention that some of our routes, our non-strip routes, have seen an increase, 2.5. Is there a specific route or routes that seem to be the bulk of that increase?
We've got a great transit planning team. They have me make sure, MJ, if they ask, you could tell them. Actually, it's the top 5 fastest growing routes cover nearly all of the valley. The Route 122, it's our newest route. It's in Henderson. It's the Maryland Parkway Horizon Ridge route. The Route 115, which is the Nellis Stephanie route, that goes through North Las Vegas, City of Las Vegas, and Henderson. The Route 212, or the Sunset route, that's up 10%. That's in Henderson and City of Las Vegas. Boulder Highway is up 9.5%, and that again runs through Henderson, Clark County, and the City of Las Vegas. And then Route 113, which is the North Las Vegas Boulevard route, is up almost 9%, and that runs through North Las Vegas and the city.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this concludes the GM report. Item 4 is to receive NDOT's director's report. Mr. Chairman, the new director of NDOT, Ms. Christina Swallow, couldn't make it today. She apologizes for not being here due to flight cancellations, but we have Ms. Tracy Larkinson to cover for her.
You mean the new governor has no juice getting that plane down here to McCarran?
It was a higher authority that granted the plane. Again, Christina does apologize for not being here and looks forward to meeting with each of the board members in the near future. Probably our biggest news coming up is we have set the ribbon cutting for Neon for May 16th. So we will be substantially done. We'll be mainly off of I-15. I do want to caution everyone working at RTC and the Government Center that the next 45 days will be a lot of activity around the Charleston interchange and the Alta slip ramp. I also want to announce that NDOT has relocated all of its project managers in Southern Nevada into the RTC building, and that's just for easier access, basically to major project information. And all of them have very good contacts and direct lines to our Carson offices. So hopefully that will help in project communication. And also would like to thank the RTC for the coordination and help, the support they provided for the upcoming infra grant application for the Tropicana interchange. And that's it, simple and short today.
Thank you. Commissioner. Mayor.
Well, I want to thank you, Tracy and Rudy Montalban. What a great service you have provided to this entire community and state over these years, and you've just been so loyal to keeping your focus on what needs to be done. And I know I can speak for colleagues here, but everybody at the city and the community, great job. And Rudy and you, hopefully your life continues on as administration changes, but there are always places for great, great people. So congratulations. Thank you so much for what you've done for the entire community. And Rudy, wherever you are, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Tracy, recently there was a restriping that was done in the transition from Lake Mead Parkway up onto the 215. Which has resulted in an enormous amount of backup that goes almost, well, in the mornings it goes all the way to Basic Road. And there is so much effort to, get into that lane when people realize they're not going to be able to do it the closer they get to the grade onto the 215. There have been, I'm told, an increase in accidents in that access. And I wonder if NDOT continues to look at that. What happened was it was restriped so that it restricted the access to one lane. And I think a lot of that was to accommodate the new access in the transition from the southbound 95 to the westbound 215. But it is a big deal. And the conflict there is now way into the city. I mean, it's not just on the highway, or the freeway, it's back into the city. As I say, it backs up all the way to Basic Road and the light at Basic Road. So I wonder if that's something that you might have, maybe you're already looking at it, but if you're not, I wonder if you might ask someone to take a look at that.
We are looking at it. We recognize basically we solved one problem and moved it.
Yeah.
So yes, we are looking into it. I don't have an answer for it today.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that.
Okay. Thanks, Tracy. Mr. Chairman, items 5 through 37 are your consent agenda items and may be acted upon in one motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 38 is to appoint 3 members and an alternate to the RTC Finance Committee. Mr. Chairman, as we've done in the past, during our budget development process, we asked the board to form a finance committee to review the draft budget. They would provide input on the draft budget, and then we'll make necessary revisions to that budget. And then in April, we'll come to the board with a tentative budget for the entire board to provide feedback. We'll make necessary revisions on that tentative budget and then bring it back in May for a final approval of the entire board. So at this point, the board may appoint members to serve on the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'll volunteer to serve.
We have a volunteer.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mayor Woodbury from Boulder City.
Anyone else? All right. We have our committee, yeah, I'll volunteer. So we have our committee of Mayor March, Mayor Woodbury, Commissioner Brown.
And an alternate, we need an alternate, just in case, the three can't serve.
Commissioner Woodbury, would you like to nominate someone?
And Mayor Goodman is the alternate. Alternate.
All right.
I so move.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is item 39, and we do not have any report this month. Item 40 is your final citizens' participation.
It's the second time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak to the board, please state your name for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Alita Dupree.
Chair Brown, Alita Dupree, for the record, thank you again. Thank you to this board for passing item 28 in consent. I'm looking forward to the positive results of expanding funding of this lift-based program. It's my hope we'll move some of those dollars into the Veterans Medical Transportation Network, as currently that network is not generally able to schedule transportation for people if they call less than 4 business days out. So this should add something good to the mix. In looking again at the matters of revenue of strip versus general market, I'm beginning to wonder and rethink about having this divide. Perhaps a unified fare structure of which the minimum fare would be a timed pass rather than a single ride will bring more consistency and stability to the system, because this is a regional system in which all the parts come together as a whole. And I notice when I am out on the strip, and I am one of those riders on the strip who does not count in strip revenue because I am buying 7, 15, and 30-day passes on the app, I'm not really seeing any activity on the strip as far as I can tell, as far as assisting our visitors to our town in using the app. So we're continuing to stuff the vending machines full of money and generating more paper tickets, and then we have people who are trying to scan their paper tickets on the validators on the front of the strip and express bus. So there's some education that we have to do. So if we want to sell more passes, we have to make it easy for people to buy passes. Perhaps the hotels could sell passes, and a person can get a day of all-access pass with their hotel reservation. 100,000 rooms filled a night. You could look at lots of day passes for our agency. So with people using apps for TNCs, how can we get them to use apps to do this and ride our buses? Because this bus service is essential for this town, both on the strip and in the general market. I can't imagine Fifth Avenue in New York City or Market Street in San Francisco being without buses. So we have to build this bus service on the strip. So these are the things that we have our work cut out for as we prepare for the budget to continue to be innovative and embrace ideas, not because they are the latest and greatest, but because they can empower our system to be the best and most user-friendly and safest it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Washington.
Hello, everyone. Stanley Washington. It's been a while before I've come before this board here. I think the last time I was around Chairman Brown was the big fight for the big bus contract back in the day. I think you remember. Anyway, it's always a pleasure. I am basically looking for my good friend, Miss Quigley. I don't see her here. Is she somewhere close by? She's out of town. That's why I don't see her. I'm losing my sight, so I thought I was just really going blind. So anyway, I'm going to just basically keep up the good job. Good. And since she's not here, that's really what I was looking for. I'm making good progress on my appointments. Thank you.
Thank you. Dorothy Barnes?
Morning, once again, Dorothy Barnes. I have a mailing address of P.O. Box 466, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here once again to address the lying that goes on the bus system. And I do understand why they're lying, but it's a dignified way of lying on me to keep my name on a program so they can rob me without a gun or a knife. They call it siphoning. Siphoning is a dignified way of robbing a disabled, sickly senior citizen of money. And I want my name off that kind of program. I keep going before the city council as well as county commissioners. I've even contacted the governor's office and the police station. They tired of seeing me there at Building 3 because I cannot get an appointment with Sheriff Lombardo to gain some control over the drug dealing that's done at my expense. My ex-husband flew in here. He's all a part of the drug dealing industry in Shreveport. And I had a nephew to get shot to death at 19 over drugs. And the youngest brother was ex-military police to get murdered in Shreveport over drugs. I'm just fed up I'm tired of lies. And they may be lying to hurt me and discredit me so they can get their way, but it don't work with this 61-and-a-half-year-old woman. They can lie till they turn blue in the face. I will not take down for this lying game on the buses. I don't care to have to bed down on the buses because I'm lied out of house and home. I lived in Henderson 1 year in Espinosa Terrace Senior Apartment. They said, you won't have a problem in Henderson. They don't have a drug problem. They had seniors fiending off me, lying on me. People were getting pass keys entering my apartment. I'm scared to live in government apartment and because my name is on a program where I'm continually victimized. I'm lied on, stole from, cheated, mistreated, abused, and it's time out. When 2019 came in, Old Lang Syne was sung with all his trouble on me again. And I do not want my name on this program. They're letting people out on Nellis that's on drugs. They're not going to vote for my name to come off. They're not going to tell the truth because they need me to pay for their drug. They don't want to go into a treatment center. I'm not here to be financing their drug operation and the ones that don't want to go into a treatment center, the police begging their families. You got to beg drug addicts to go into a drug treatment center? Well, I won't beg them. They're threatening my life so they can steal from me to pay for their drug habits. I don't have a drug habit because I don't care to have to pay for it. Why should I support someone else's? And they'll put people on the bus and steal from me and use the money to pay them to lie on me, especially at night on the Deuce on the Script bus and the 109. They have several ladies I know have stolen from me, and they call it siphoning, and have used the money to pay people to actually get on the bus and lie on me. And some of the buses smell real bad. I'm very sad that they're making people homeless with these programs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Stephanie?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Versnick. I started coming to the RTC Commission meetings back in November of 2018 on behalf of my son. This is my 15th time that I am speaking in front of this commission. My message is the same. I'm asking this commission to restore the service area to the way it was back in 2011. I don't understand why we can't expand the service area, which would give more access to individuals with disabilities so they can be more independent. We did it in 2011. When the peer review study was presented to this commission in October, I've been asking for their feedback and viewpoint. I still have not received an answer. Money was spent on this study that took 6 months to complete. What are we doing with the information? Have you read the study? As I previously stated, I don't believe the study addressed the unique needs of this growing community. I recently attended the National Council on Disabilities in Lake Las Vegas, which, by the way, was outside the service area that limited many people with disabilities from attending. Mr. Dan Howland was on the transportation panel, and he said something very interesting that I would like to have clarified. He was telling the council that currently paratransit goes 3/4 of a mile outside the fixed route service area. But he also said we can certainly go outside it further than that if we want to. What does the "if we want to" mean? Does the RTC not want to? He also mentioned offering a premium service outside the service area. He said it's been done in other communities. I know people with no transportation in this community would be willing to entertain that option, including myself. There should be options for people in this community. This commission needs to understand that the RTC is not meeting the needs of this community. Members of our community who are tax-paying citizens and registered voters, like my son, has no transportation. If I'm not here to drive him to work, he would lose his job, a federal job that he has held for over 15 years, that he has worked so hard for. His benefits in retirement would go away. That's not fair. He doesn't deserve that. In closing, I would like to propose to this commission to consider moving public comment on non-agenda items to the beginning of the meeting. I feel this would give the opportunity for all commission members to hear public comment. Typically, by the time it comes to public comment, most members have left to attend other meetings, and often only 2 or 3 members are left. I think it would give more respect to people in the community who want to speak about issues that are important to them. They take the time to come and speak, and they deserve to be heard by all members.
Thank you for your comments. Robin?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Robin Kincaid, and this is the 11th time that I've come before the Commission. So I come today to discuss some problems that persons with disabilities are having in accessing businesses outside the service area. There are countless parks, churches, restaurants, grocery stores, dry cleaners, schools, and hair salons that are not in the service area. My daughter, actually, we live in the service area. The problem is to be able to access things outside of the service area. Some of these businesses have been around for over 15 years. So what it means for persons with disabilities is regardless, if they live in that service area, they still can't go to these locations. Another example is Leavitt Middle School. This is a well-established area in the Northwest. Some of you may be very familiar with that area. But it's still not part of the service area. So if a person with a disability has a child that attends Leavitt Middle School, they can't even go to that school for a parent-teacher conference. That school was built in 2001, 18 years ago. That school was established in that area. This is not a rural area that we're asking for a service area to expand to. So I've asked the council in previous public comment periods in the past for information on how the service area is established and what is the process to expand the fixed route area. I still don't have that information. I really please, again, we're asking, I guess maybe at this point we're begging for information for the sake of transparency, accountability, and openness. It is a reasonable request. Previously in public comment periods, we requested that we create a premium priced area to cover the gaps and the fingers that are not in the service area. So at least there'd be some type of service for persons with disability to access the much needed service. So I'm requesting that this concern be placed on the March agenda so that the discussion could occur and that we could begin to address the transportation needs in these areas where there are houses 100 feet away from each other and people find themselves either in the service area or having access to transportation in the service area and others are not. I'm also asking for a progress report on the RTC's actions that were taken since the 2018 federal transportation audit. If you're new to the commission, maybe you're not as familiar with the audit, but there was audit with findings, and we're asking for an updated progress report on these deficiency findings and the corrective action plans that would be created. We're actually asking if this update could occur on the March agenda, and so that the public could be informed of the progress on correcting these deficiencies. In conclusion, we have a significant amount of work to do in order to begin to meet the needs, or the transportation needs in particular, for persons with disabilities. please begin the 2019 year working as a team to problem solve these issues and be a responsive commission to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? We'll close this portion of public comment. This meeting is adjourned.